Al Dutcher is back with this week's forecast, and October is off to a wet start. Al, what can we expect for the week ahead?
Well, Troy, we have seen quite an interesting week, and we talked about this last week with that big upper air trough moving in from the western United States. It progressed a little bit slower across the state than was originally forecasted. It's a little slower by about a day, and we actually seen some heavier precipitation set up in central Nebraska than was forecasted. That was expected to be more toward eastern Nebraska. But once the system got its act together and we started to see the heavy precipitation move up from the southern plains, we really started to fill in southeastern Nebraska, and we've got reports anywhere from 2 to upwards of 5 inches. There was a little bit of a dry slot in about a half a county to a county wide, just to the north of Beatrice and up toward Omaha, but overall pretty much fell in line with what the forecasts were indicating, and even heavier precipitation, unfortunately, for our folks up in South Dakota and to our east in Iowa and Minnesota. Now we have the system moving through presently through the state, and after we get through this system, it looks like at least we're going to get a few days of dry weather before I turn our attention to a rather potent system starting to take shape over the Gulf of Alaska that will eventually move down into the northern Rockies and probably spread a hard freeze across a substantial portion of the northern half of the Corn Belt. So as we get to the upper air models for this morning, what we are looking at is this trough responsible for the precipitation that broke out in eastern Nebraska. It's going to strengthen as it moves toward the east, and we should see the precipitation here in eastern Nebraska in by the middle of this afternoon, and hopefully we'll start to see some sunny skies as high pressure builds in. The main active weather will remain much to our northeast, as we are just seeing the remnants of some scattered shower activity here this morning. And then as we go to tomorrow, we get a northwest flow, so we're going to keep cool conditions in our region with most of the precipitation over the Great Lakes as high pressure sits itself right over the central plains. And as we get into Sunday, we see most of the precipitation now exiting the Great Lakes region and up into the northeastern United States. And then on Monday, we start to see the flattening of the jet stream. That's going to lift a little bit warmer area into our region, so we should be hitting the 70-degree to 75 mark in the southern portions of the state, probably be in the mid-60s to upper 60s across the north. Good news, no precipitation. And as we go into the day on Tuesday, now we start to see the next trough coming into the northern Rockies. This is going to be a rather potent system. Low pressure starts to organize in eastern Montana, so we are going to start to see some precipitation breaking out across the northern Rockies as we see snow starting to move its way into the region, and a little system moving out of the southern stream may impact us as we get into the afternoon hours. But as we go into Wednesday afternoon, we are looking at that trough digging in, high pressure pushing toward the south, and low pressure to our south. Also, this will also cause a convergence, and we may see some precipitation break out in southeast Nebraska, but more important, heavy snow once again in the northern Rockies. On Thursday, this trough really starts to strengthen, high pressure following in its wake. This is our hard freeze conditions that are right now forecasted by the numerical models. We'll start to cover most of the Dakotas, possibly reaching into northern Nebraska. The heavier precipitation slides off to our east, and by Friday, that cold air starts to shift over into the central and eastern Corn Belt as high pressure firmly over Iowa will bring hard freeze conditions probably to at least the northern one-third of Iowa and Illinois. And then Friday, we start to see the system pushing toward the east, and that cold air will follow it. So most likely Friday morning, we will see hard freeze conditions in Indiana, and then on Saturday, this possibly will shift off into the eastern United States. More importantly, as we go to the 8 to 14-day forecast from next week to the following Tuesday, with freezing conditions, above normal conditions usually occur with that Indian summer-like conditions. High pressure comes in, and more importantly, it doesn't look like we're going to be saturated, at least for the next few days.